Hello and welcome to K News. This is Hardik Trivedi. Let's have a look what is happening in India and in the world. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un lifted a lockdown in a major city near the border with South Korea, where thousands had been quarantined for weeks over coronavirus worries, state media said on Friday. But Kim, during a ruling party meeting on Thursday, also insisted the North will keep its borders shut and rejected any outside help as the country carries out an aggressive antivirus campaign and rebuilds thousands of houses, roads, and bridges damaged by heavy rain and floods in recent weeks. Entering the last year of an ambitious 5-year national development plan, Kim Jong-un in December declared a frontal breakthrough against international sanctions, while urging his nation to stay resilient in a struggle for economic self-reliance. But experts say the COVID-19 crisis likely thwarted some of Kim's major economic goals by forcing the country into a lockdown that shut the border with China, the North's major ally and economic lifeline, and potentially hampered his ability to mobilize people for labor. During Thursday's meeting, Kim said it was clear after 3 weeks that the virus situation in Kaesong was stable and expressed gratitude to residents for cooperating with the lockdown. Lebanon's parliament on Thursday approved a state of emergency in Beirut in its first session since the catastrophic August 4 explosion, granting the military sweeping powers amid rising popular anger at official corruption and mismanagement and political uncertainty. The government resigned after the blast that killed more than 170 people, injured at least 6,000, and wrecked the capital's port and caused widespread damage across the capital. The disaster has raised popular fury towards Lebanon's leaders to a new level as the country reels from unprecedented economic and financial crisis along with the virus. Before it resigned, the government declared the state of emergency that gave the military the power to declare curfews, prevent public gatherings, and censor the media, as well as refer civilians to military tribunals for alleged security breaches. The action required approval by lawmakers, which they granted on Thursday. The move has been criticized by rights groups and others who say the civilian government already was operating with increased powers because of the virus outbreak. Some pointed to the military crackdown on protesters last week, fearing the extended powers could lead to silencing dissent. It still was not known what caused the fire responsible for igniting nearly 3,000 tons of ammonium nitrate that were stored for years in Beirut's port. But documents have emerged that show the country's top leadership and security officials were aware about the stockpile. After the government resigned Monday, the cabinet is in a caretaker capacity. With the People's Liberation Army holding out on de-escalation at some points of its transgressions along the LAC in Ladakh, the Narendra Modi government is considering new ways to counter China and ensuring that the troops are back to their peacetime locations. According to people familiar with the matter in government and the military, contrary to China's public posture that building trust with India is one of its diplomatic priorities, the PLA continues to sit on the green top of the Finger 4 feature on the north bank of Pangong TSO. This allows China a dominant sweep from Finger 3 to Finger 8. All the PLA has done is to vacate the saddle and the ridge beyond the brown top of the contested Finger Four. This obstinacy is matched only by the Chinese portrayal of even a routine meeting between the Indian ambassador to Beijing and the deputy director in the Foreign Affairs Commission as path-breaking. The people, none of whom wish to be identified, added. Meanwhile, they said Beijing's refrain about meeting India halfway is beginning to grate because it is the PLA that is the aggressor, not the Indian army, as one official said. Last Monday, the Chinese Foreign Ministry posted a statement on its website claiming that maintaining peace along the disputed boundary and deepening strategic trust with India was one of China's key priorities. The statement has no reflection on the ground in Ladakh, with the PLA making no efforts to restore status quo ante, the Indian official pointed out. The Pakistani army on Thursday rejected any rift with Saudi Arabia and said the upcoming visit of Army Chief General Qamar Javed Bajwa to Kingdom was pre-planned. Army spokesman Major General Babar Iftikhar addressed the media in Rawalpindi, where he was asked about a media report that General Bajwa was going to Riyadh to fix some irritants in bilateral ties. The hearts of the Pakistani people beat with the Saudi people, so there is no need to raise questions on the relations, he said. He said the upcoming visit of General Bajwa to Saudi Arabia was pre-planned and it was about the military to military relations. There is no need to read too much into it. Everything is fine, he said. Official sources said that Bajwa was expected to travel to the kingdom on Sunday. Last week, Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi expressed his frustration in a TV interview when he warned that Pakistan would be forced to call a special meeting of the IOC. The OIC is dominated by the Arab bloc led by Riyadh, and due to increasing warmth in ties with India, Saudi and the UAE rulers are apparently not willing to oblige Pakistan. The Supreme Court on Friday held activist lawyer Prashant Bhushan guilty of contempt for his two derogatory tweets against the judiciary. A bench headed by Justice Arun Mishra said it would hear on August 20 the arguments on quantum of sentence to be awarded to Bhushan in the matter. The contemner can be punished with simple imprisonment for a term which may extend up to 6 months, or with a fine up to Rs 2,000, or with both. The Apex Court had on August 5 reserved its verdict in the matter after Bhushan had defended his tweets, saying they were against the judges regarding their conduct in their personal capacity and they did not obstruct administration of justice. While referring to the tweets by Bhushan, the Apex Court had earlier said these statements are prima facie capable of undermining the dignity and authority of the institution of the Supreme Court in general and the office of Chief Justice of India in particular in the eyes of the public at large. Senior advocate Dushyant Dave, appearing for Bhushan in the matter, had said the two tweets were not against the institution. A day after his reunion with Rajasthan Chief Minister Ashok Gehlot, Sachin Pilot's sitting in the Rajasthan Assembly provoked jeers from the opposition BJP. Mr. Pilot, who was Deputy Chief Minister and sat next to Mr. Gehlot when he last attended the Assembly, is now seated across the floor near the opposition benches. When I came to the house and found that my seat had been changed, I was wondering why. When I sat there, I felt safe. Now I am next to the opposition. Then I realized that I have been sent to the border. That is because only the bravest and strongest warrior is sent to the border, quipped Mr. Pilot. The message seemed to be as much as for the BJP as for his own party leaders. He added that he was ready to face the fire at the front line. We are ready and armed for the onslaught with our armor, our shield, and our weapons, he said to loud desk thumping. A committee of 7 Supreme Court judges is learned to have recommended holding physical hearings in at least 2 or 3 of the 15th benches in the apex court as early as next week with some additional safety measures. The apex court since March 25 has been holding hearings through video conferencing due to a nationwide lockdown, and even after the restrictions were relaxed, it has decided to continue with the practice. In the last week of July, the 7-judge panel, headed by senior most judge Justice N.V. Ramana, had apprised the bar leaders of its decision to not open the apex court for physical hearings for the time being, and had assured to meet them again after 2 weeks to reconsider the issue. Now Shivaji M. Jadhav, President of the Supreme Court Advocates on Record Association, said that the Judges Committee met bar leaders on Tuesday and is seriously considering to start at least 2 or 3 physical courts from the next week. Jadhav said in the meantime, the apex courts registry would take necessary steps to prepare the courts for physical functioning. Sources said that the judges panel would give its commendation to Chief Justice S.A. Bobde for necessary action. It's time for a short break. We'll join you in a short while.
There's a way of Tundi fan with the cooler number 1. Eka Chesco more fun, unte cooler number 1. Eka don't run from the sun, unte Gangsta number 1.
पहली नजर में हो गया मैं दीवाना 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 इतना सुंदर जैसे कोई सपना सुहाना मैं दीवाना दीवाना
कचहरी 18 इंच जो देखे वो दीवाना।
Welcome back to K News and thank you for watching. Let's continue the streak of news. The Ministry of Defence is organizing an Independence Day flag hoisting ceremony on August 15 at Red Fort in Delhi, maintaining the balance between sanctity and dignity of the national function while factoring in precautions related to the COVID-19 scenario. All invitees have been requested to wear masks. Besides, an adequate number of suitable masks are being kept handy for distribution at various points of venue. Participation to the event is only through invitation. About 4,000 plus invitees have been issued to officials, diplomats, members of public, media, etc. Thermal screening at all entry points for the invitees has been planned. Through sanitization of the premises inside and outside the Red Fort is being carried out regularly. The sitting enclosures and walkways have been laid with wooden flooring and carpeting to facilitate seamless movement of guests, at the time avoiding overcrowding of people. Additional door frame metal detectors with adequately spaced markings have been provided to avoid queuing and to ensure smooth passage of all the invitees. Most of the parking areas have been brick lined and paved to ensure smooth entry and exit of vehicles. Bharatiya Janata Party State Chief Chandrakant Patil on Thursday alleged that the Maharashtra Vikas Aghadi government's ministers had received kickbacks in transfers of officials. Patil has called for a criminal investigation department inquiry into the matter. MVA ministers have opened up a market of sorts of plum posting to favored officials. There is a huge turnover in these transfers, and it also comes at a cost to genuine officials who may not have political affiliations. All this needs to be investigated by the CID, said Patil. Patil, a former state minister, also added that the General Administration Department, led by Chief Minister Uddhav Thackeray, had lifted the moratorium of transfers laid down by the Finance Department, headed by Deputy Chief Minister Ajit Pawar on May 4. The moratorium was laid down owing to the COVID-19 and the ensuing lockdown to maintain continuity in the implementation of measures to tackle the pandemic. The Finance Department had in May issued a government order stating that no officer should be transferred this year to ensure continuity in the implementation of COVID-19 measures. Across departments, it was stated that GAD would come out with a specific order on transfers. Patil said the GAD issued a government order on July 7, allowing 15% of the transfers of the total posts to be carried out by July 31, which was later extended to August 10. The ruling parties have refuted the allegation. Water Resources Minister Jayant Patil said that such loose allegations are not being taken seriously. The S&P, BSE, Sensex and NSE Nifty 50 indexes ended sharply lower on Friday, weighed down by weakness in heavyweights like HDFC, ICICI, Axis, ITC and Kotak Mahindra. The benchmarks opened higher and were trading in a narrow range. The Sensex ended 433 points or 1.13% lower at 37,877, and Nifty fell 122 points to close at 11,178. Weaknesses in HDFC Bank, Axis, ICICI and Kotak Mahindra Bank wiped out over 200 points from the Sensex. On the other hand, pharma and metal shares witnessed buying interest during the session. Eicher Motors was top Nifty loser. The stock fell 7% to close at 20,124 after it reported loss of 55 crore in June quarter, as against a profit of 452 crore during the same quarter last year. Tata Motors, Mahindra and Mahindra, Axis Bank, Bajaj Finance, SBI, Indian Oil, IndusInd Bank and Kotak Mahindra also fell between 2 to 5% each. On the flip side, JSW Steel, Coal India, Sun Pharma, NTPC, Tata Steel and Shree Cements were among the gainers. The overall market breadth was negative as 1600 shares ended lower while 1000 ended higher on the BSE. India will fund the implementation of a major connectivity project in Maldives through a $400 million line of credit and 100 million grant, External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar said on Thursday, after holding wide-ranging talks with his Maldivian counterpart Abdullah Shahid. The 6.7 kilometers Greater Malay Connectivity Project will be the largest civilian infrastructure project in Maldives, connecting Malay with 3 neighboring islands, Wilingi, Gulifahu and Thilafushi, officials said. People familiar with the GMPC said it was a key election promise of the ruling MDP, for which the President of Maldives, Ibrahim Mohammed Sohi, sought India's assistance during his meeting with Mr. Jaishankar in September last year. India will fund the implementation of Greater Malay Connectivity Project through a US dollars 400 million LOC and US dollars 100 million grant. This 6.7 kilometer bridge project connecting Malé with Gulifahu Port and Thilafushi Industrial Zone will help revitalize and transform Maldivian economy, Mr. Jaishankar tweeted. He also announced the start of regular cargo ferry service between India and Maldives to boost trade and commerce between the two countries. The GMCP project will include construction of a bridge and causeway link spanning 6.7 kilometers. Prime Minister Narendra Modi is not only the longest serving non-Congress Prime Minister, but also has the longest tenure as head of an elected government, which includes his term for more than 12 years as Chief Minister of Gujarat, among all Prime Ministers the country has seen. PM Modi's tenure as the head of a government among all Prime Ministers is 18 years and 306 days, according to a chart shared by BJP sources. Jawaharlal Nehru, the country's first Prime Minister who never headed a state government, served for 16 years and 286 days. His daughter Indira Gandhi comes third in the length of her tenure as an elected head of a government with a term of 15 years and 350 days as Prime Minister. Like her father, she was also never a Chief Minister. There have been several Chief Ministers, including Jyoti Basu of West Bengal and Pawan Kumar of Sikkim, who have served for a longer period as head of an elected government than PM Modi, but who never became Prime Minister. PM Modi on Thursday became the fourth longest serving Prime Minister of India, surpassing Atal Bihari Vajpayee's tenure. The feat also makes PM Modi the country's longest serving Prime Minister not from the Congress. In 2014, the Modi-led BJP decimated all opposition and swept the election, becoming the first party to win a majority in over 3 decades. A month after rebellion from 19 dissident legislators of his party threatened the survival of his government, Rajasthan Chief Minister Ashok Gehlot sailed through the trust vote in the State Assembly on Friday. The vote took place a day after Sachin Pilot attended the Congress Legislature Party meeting at CM Gehlot's house and declared that he is determined to act in the interest of the people of Rajasthan and in accordance with the promises made. The win in the House will allow CM Gehlot 6 months' time to build and repair ties with the rebels who have come home. The vote of confidence, which was brought by the government, has been passed with a very good majority in the Rajasthan Assembly, despite various attempts by the opposition. The result is in favor of the government, said Sachin Pilot after the voting. The leader added that this should put a full stop to all suspicions about the numerical strength of the government. A roadmap has been prepared for all the issues that were being raised. I have complete faith that roadmap will be announced timely, said Pilot, referring to the truce deal he secured with the Congress High Command before he returned to the state. Rajasthan Parliamentary Affairs Minister Shanti Dhariwal moved a motion of confidence in the Assembly. Ahead of the trust vote, CM Gehlot had said it would be a victory of truth. The Reserve Bank of India on Friday approved an annual dividend payout of more than 57,000 crore to the government. The development comes at a time when the government's fiscal deficit hit a record 6.62 lakh crore in the April-June period, as the coronavirus pandemic triggered lockdown affected government's revenue collections. Fiscal deficit, an indication of the total borrowings required by the government, occurs when a revenue collections fall short of expenditure. The RBI's board approved the transfer of 57,000 crore as surplus to the central government for accounting year 2019-20. Having reviewed the current economic situation, continued global and domestic challenges, and the monetary, regulatory, and other measures to mitigate the economic impact of COVID-19, the central bank considers the period from July to June as accounting year. In recent years, the government has been putting pressure on the central bank to increase its payouts. According to the Union Budget of 2020-21, the dividend from the central bank and other state-run financial institutions is pegged at 60,000 crore. Last year, the RBI's board approved a record payout of 1.76 lakh crore to the government, including a dividend of 1.23 lakh crore and surplus capital of 52,000 crore. The government has estimated fiscal deficit at 3.8% of the country's GDP in the year ending March 2021, a target many economists expect the government to miss, as against 3.3% for financial year 2019-20. That's all for now. Keep watching K News. This is Hardik Trivedi taking your leave. Be alert, be positive, be safe.